Congratulations on finishing your course. That was some hard work. Now what do I do with it? Is there anyone that will house my course and help me sell it? What if I can get an entire team to help me sell my course that I worked so hard on? Have I got a discovery for you? The Great Discovery not only has a place for your course, but a network of affiliates that are eager to sell your hard-earned course creation. Want to make a little more money so you can build your course or invest in yourself? Opportunities for all this and more await you at The Great Discovery, or go to tuepodcast.net/discovery for more information. Once again, that's tuepodcast.net/discovery for more information about how to join The Great Discovery now. This is an Undiscovered Legacy production and proud member of Pod Nation Media Network. Hello, Scuba Believers, and welcome to episode 111 of The Undiscovered Entrepreneur, and it's me, Scoob, coming at you at whatever device you happen to be listening on. Okay, just a couple of really quick announcements here for you. Just a quick reminder about my YouTube channel. If you're interested in anything that's happening visually, because some of us are visual learners, go to my YouTube channel with the same name, Undiscovered Entrepreneur. Please subscribe. Please take a look. I got some amazing things happening there. My shorts have been doing really good. So please, please, please help me along here on my entrepreneur adventure by going to my YouTube channel and subscribing and seeing what I have for you there. Also, I just want to let you know I love Scooby-Doo, if you couldn't tell already. I want to try something a little bit new. So if you have anything to do with Scooby-Doo, if you happen to see a stuffed Scooby-Doo or a picture of Scooby-Doo or whatever it is, take a picture of it and send it to me on my X or Twitter or whatever it is. My handle is DJScoob2021, and I would really, really love to see what you could find that has Scooby-Doo on it. And one last little teeny tiny note too, I'm trying a new editing style, and it might be a little bit different than what you're used to. So I would like a little bit of feedback from you if you could. And let me know if you enjoy or don't enjoy the editing that I have in this podcast. You could go any of the same places. You can even go to my Stan store, stan.store/skoob. You'll have all my information, how to contact me there. Let me know if you like this editing job or not. Now, today, we're having somebody really, really special. Now, if you remember, a couple weeks back, I had Pat Flynn on the podcast. Amazing episode. If you haven't heard it yet, go back and check it out. I'll link it in the show notes. While I was setting up that interview with Pat Flynn, I came across his executive assistant. Now, executive assistant's name is Jess. Cool. And we kind of hit it off a little bit. I talked to her a little bit more about what she does, and she has an entrepreneur adventure for herself too. And I was like, why not be on the podcast? So today we're going to talk to Jess. Jess is a freelance personnel and executive assistant who spent over 20 years mastering the art of supporting entrepreneurs and small business owners. Most notably, she's been the right-hand woman to Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income for over 12 years. Helping build one of the most successful business education platforms online. We talk about a lot of amazing subjects, including going from toxic job to dream client. Jess escaped the soul-crushing corporate role by giving 6 months notice and launching her own fractional executive assistant service, immediately landing her former employer as her very first client, then transforming a toxic relationship into a respectful partnership practically overnight. And a fantastic story about that. The power of one strategic email. A simple BCC email to everyone she knew announcing her new business led to a 12-year career with Pat Flynn, proving that sometimes the biggest opportunities come from the smallest, most authentic outreach efforts. And one of the biggest things we talk about here is the fear of success over failure. Unlike most entrepreneurs who fear failure, Jess openly admits her biggest challenge is fear of success, deliberately staying behind the scenes and maintaining privacy while supporting her dreams, showing that success doesn't always mean being in the spotlight. Let's listen to a really good friend, and that's Jess. Are you ready to unlock your entrepreneur potential? Are you ready to break free from all the barriers holding you back? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Undiscovered Entrepreneur, your first step in getting across the start line. I'm your host and guide, Scoop, and I'm here with one mission: to help you overcome the obstacles standing between you and the start of your adventure. Whether you're dreaming of launching a startup, creating the next big app, or turning your passion into a thriving business, this podcast is your launchpad. Together we'll navigate the challenges, overcome hidden boundaries that stop us from starting, and learn how to overcome them with the help of others and experience them right along with you. So are you ready to take that crucial step to transform from aspiring to inspiring? Then let's get across that start line together, right here, right now, on The Undiscovered Entrepreneur. Salutations, Scoop Believers, and we are here again with another amazing entrepreneur. Today we're here with Jess. Hey, Jess, how are you?
Hey, doing well, thanks. How about you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and to be on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur. Get across the start line. Super appreciate you.
I really appreciate you having me on.
All right. So I'm going to have one kind of semi-serious question to ask you. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Are you a Scoop Believer?
Oh, come on now. You know I am.
All right. Jess is a Scoop Believer. Woohoo! All right. Thank you so much for being a Scoop Believer, Jess. Super appreciate you. All right. So what I like to do here in the very beginning is get kind of an idea of who you are, what your entrepreneur adventure is, and how you got across the start line in your entrepreneur adventure.
I love it. I'm so ready.
All right.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Jess Lindgren, and presently I hold a lot of different titles. So we'll get to that because that's kind of the end of the entrepreneurial journey, if you will, or at least the midpoint where we're at now. And I got started back in 2012, 2013. I was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the time, and was a big fan of Google Reader. May it rest in peace. I used to read Forbes and entrepreneur.com and that kind of thing. I just had a lot of downtime at my full-time daytime job and was what I like to call, I've been a personal and executive assistant for over 20 years now. And at the time, I was more of an insurance policy, just there if you need me and not really doing much if you don't, which was good and bad. You know, there were certainly days where I was busy, but certainly days where it was pretty chill. And during some of those days where it was chill, I'd be reading like Cliff Ravenscraft, old school people who are now not my contemporaries, but the contemporaries of the executive that I work with. So it was just reading a lot of entrepreneurial, like Seth Godin. I'm a huge Seth Godin fan and reading a ton of his stuff. And I was just like, okay, if the company that I'm working at right now, if they can make $50 million, I can make $50,000. Like I am an executive assistant. I see you people all day, every day inside your business. I'm seeing you running your businesses well, running your businesses questionably, sometimes, certainly differently than I would run a business. And all of the articles and stuff that I was reading from people just kind of gave me a lot of ideas and a lot of confidence. Like there are people out there doing this. I'm not doing this alone. And one day I just had enough of the full-time day job. I gave him 6 months notice and I was like, listen, I've got to go, but it's been great working together. So I am spinning off and starting my own basically fractional executive assistant service. And I ended up signing them as my first client, the company that I was leaving. And the relationship just changed overnight. Hey, Jess, you're in my office. Hey, executive, I'm working for you. To, oh my gosh, Jess, how was your weekend? It just really changed the dynamic. Things really thought out. And it felt really great to be leaving my full-time job, but be stepping away with essentially a part-time client, but still making full-time money. So that was a really helpful springboard into that. And then in January of 2014, I sent an email to everybody I knew. And if I had emailed you once, you got this message. And I was just like, hey, everybody, life update, quitting my job, throwing a party, you should come. And here's what I'm doing. I'm a freelance personal and executive assistant. Here's what that means. I can come run your front desk for you for a week while your receptionist is out. I can help you plan your Christmas party. I can help you. Here's a list of things I can do, but I promise this is not an exhaustive list. If there's something on that list that's not on that list, just ask me. If I can't do it, I guarantee you I know somebody who can. And about 15 minutes after sending out that email, I got a response from someone who I am still on the same team with today, who said, Jess, we have a job for you. And it turned out that my first major client was an entrepreneur who goes by the name of Pat Flynn. Perhaps you may have heard of him.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. And so just from one time I had had coffee with this woman and sent her that email when I was quitting my job, starting my business. And a couple months later, I was hired by Pat of Smart Passive Income fame and to be his executive assistant. And that's where we're at today. Pat and I have been working together since 2014. So this is year 12. And it's been 12 years of high highs and not very low lows. Like we do a lot of fun stuff and we always pivot. We're always trying new things. And I've certainly had other clients throughout the time, like the first several years of running my company, I had probably a dozen different clients. But have you done freelance work?
Yeah, I actually do a little bit of editing for other podcasts and I do a little bit of coaching. I don't know if you want to call that freelance work or not, but I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, but like, sometimes you can have like a dozen people who need like 2 hours of your time every
Hmm.
week, but then eventually you have somebody who needs 5 hours of your time. So you have to get rid of one of your 2 hour clients because you've got somebody who wants 5 hours, and then they want 10 hours, then they want 20 hours, and all of a sudden all of your little 1 and 2 hour a week clients, it doesn't make sense to keep spreading yourself so thin when someone needs more of your time. And that's really what happened for Pat and I, is that it was supposed to be a one-off project, the episode, but I took his inbox from 9,000 unread emails to inbox zero. And it was supposed to be a one-off project. And he was just like, hey, now that you've got this inbox team, do you want to stick around and help me maintain it? Like, that would be great. And so it was the same kind of thing, like from a one-off 40-hour project to 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, eventually 60 hours a week. I had to hire somebody to help because that's not sustainable for one person to do. And yeah, we've just been together ever since. And in 2020, late 2019, early 2020 is when I let all the rest of my clients go and have been here in 2025 building that back up. So I'm back into the consulting game a little bit. That's me in a nutshell. That's my entrepreneurial adventure, is being a freelance personal and executive assistant and being a front row seat to a lot of entrepreneurial adventures over the last 12 years.
That's fantastic. Believe it or not, I remember that. I don't remember the number, so I'm saying with you that. But I remember listening to the episode where Pat actually introduced you into the SPI community and that kind of thing too, because I've listened to every episode he's ever put out from zero. I spent a lot of my first year or so listening, starting from zero all the way up to where he is now. So I remember hearing your voice on his podcast. And that's one of the things that drew me to you, because I really wanted to learn a little more about you, because I remember hearing about you and what you were capable of doing. And then you learning more about, how you incorporated yourself into things too. But the thing that really strikes me at this particular point right now with you is your capability of learning from other people, even though it was from afar. Even though you were sitting in the background, you were still listening and understanding what other people were talking about around you and learning from them, even though they weren't actually teaching you directly. That's a great skill to have.
Yeah. And just being an executive assistant, you're sitting in closed door meetings every day. You're sitting in there with the CEO, any direct reports, any external third party folks that might come through. Like, it really is just a front row seat to how to run a business, and depending on how you might feel about things, how not to run a business. Cause like everybody has different, I call it my moral barometer. Like, there were definitely things over my pre-Pat career where I'm just like, this doesn't really align with my morals so much. And one of the reasons I've been able to stay with Pat for so long is because our morals, our willingness and desire to teach is so strong, and just like be generous and be teaching everything you know. I think that ConvertKit's slogan, Kit now.
Or
Pat's got
just
it on
kid. Yeah.
Pat has it on a t-shirt now. That's all I
Yeah.
know. But it's like, teach everything you know.
Oh, yeah.
Teachable. I think that was Teachable's slogan
Be
for a
teachable.
while.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Tell me more about the extreme change that you've had between you went from the executive to actually being part of the team.
Yes. So when I left hopefully you haven't experienced this, but a lot of people have had challenging workplace experiences. People have had toxic workplace experiences. And this was definitely one of those things where, looking back on it, this was during the Great Recession, 2000,
8. Yeah.
2008-ish. So it
Hmm.
was in that chunk of time. And all I knew at the time was that I was having a really difficult time finding other work. So because I had landed this particular executive assistant role, I was like, well, I gotta like hang on to this with all my fingers and toes. Like, I don't care how bad this is. I need a job. I need a paycheck. I need healthcare. I need experience. Like, I just need all of these things. So I can't let it go. And even though it was not a good fit, like our moral barometers did not line up at all. Um, it just you hang on to it. We've all been there where you hang on to a job because you need it. You need to pay rent. You need to put food on the table. You need to be able to live a life. And it just was not a great fit. And when you're someone's full-time employee, it's you, if you're not a great leader, you can and do treat people however you want to treat them. And when I said I was leaving and I was just like, I gotta go, I think it kind of clicked for them that I was a very valuable asset. I was very capable. I still am very capable and very smart. And it just, when it turned into me doing them the favor of not just quitting, like the relationship just changed overnight. Like they used to walk past my desk and not even say hello. Like we had a private executive suite. The door was right in front of my desk. If you walked into that office suite, you walked past my desk. They would like physically head down in a newspaper. They would pretend to be on a call. They would whatever. And I'm like, why do you even have me here if you're just going to treat me like trash? And so when I said I was going freelance, and then they were like, can you stay so we're not in a lurch? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And it just literally overnight, the shift was just, it went from you're my employee, I can treat you however I want, to you're doing me a favor. You didn't just quit. We have time and runway to find your long-term replacement, but we at least have you as a short-term replacement. And it just, so many similar stories that once people quit a toxic job and they start freelancing, it's like a switch flips and people realize what a great thing they had going and didn't realize until it was almost gone.
Sometimes we don't realize that we're such an asset until it's taken away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shifts our respect for that, what could have happened if you actually said no, which
Absolutely. And I mean, when I did come back, I took a 2-week break over Christmas. So I left, it was like December 15th. And then I would have come back like the first week of January. And I came back to the office was literally falling apart. It had the sink in the executive suite had burst a pipe over Christmas break while everyone was gone. Came back to carpet and tiles like floating off the floor, huge industrial fans everywhere. So like I was literally there saving their office space, saving their project management of the cleanup and restoration of the office. They could and would have had to do that by themselves if I hadn't been there. So it was just like a total shift of like, we are so glad you're here. Oh my gosh.
yeah, could you imagine what the job would have been like if they did it? Oh boy.
Oh man, it would have been a very different result at the
Yeah.
end for sure.
Another thing that sticks out of my mind in your kind of hero's journey that you're talking about here is the power of email. And you were able to send this email out saying, "Hey, this is what I'm capable of. Does anybody need help with anything?" And having that email to begin with, a list of the people that you've talked to over time, to use that to your advantage, sounds like it was a great thing.
It really was. And at the time, I did not have like an email list per se.
Mhm.
So again, this would have been like 2013, 2014. Things were very different back, in the good
Yeah.
old days. So this was literally just a BCC'd email from my Gmail account. And it was just like, hey, friends, if you're receiving this email, it's because I know you in some way, shape, or form. Definitely got people like, who are you? And a lot of people like, oh, congratulations. And truly a handful of people like, hey, this sounds perfect. I'm so glad you told me. Let's get coffee. Let's talk. Let's make something happen. And I did, just from those casual connections and warm and deeper connections. Yeah, a lot of that, like the woman that I still work with today, she's still on the team. We had met for coffee once in Minneapolis, and it turned into a 12-year career
And many more, it sounds like.
and many more to come.
Yes, that's awesome. So, being an entrepreneur yourself in one way, shape, or form, what do you think stops most entrepreneurs from getting started? What is that one thing that you've kind of noticed? I mean, you've seen other entrepreneurs and businesses and whatnot, but what do you think kind of stops us from doing anything really?
I think it's a lot for a lot of people, it's fear of failure, but I know for myself specifically, it's fear of success, which
Hmm.
sounds weird. Like you saying that you remember listening to me on an older episode of SPI, the SPI podcast. I think it was episode 115, that first episode that I was on. And I've been on for a few times after that. And I was actually very cagey with Pat. Like, don't share my name. Don't share you can call me Jess. There's plenty of people named Jess out in the world. I could be any random Jess anywhere, but like, keep that private. Like, I don't want to get so famous or busy that I can't continue working with you. A lot of people would have been like, they'd cut off their right foot for that kind of opportunity. And I'm like, no, I don't want that opportunity. But for a lot of people, it is fear of failure. And just, I have, again, had that front row seat to helping other people through their entrepreneurial journey. And the number one thing that I tell people is just start small. Start with something. Try anything. You want to be a famous jewelry designer someday? Sell your first pair of earrings on Etsy. You want to be a famous author someday? Sell your first 99-cent Kindle book on Amazon. Like, just start somewhere and eventually things will build.
That's a lot of what I actually thank you for saying that, because that's a lot of what I talk about in my podcast is just getting started, no matter how small that start might be.
Yes.
And my catchphrase and my mantra, I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today, is something that my 6-year-old son came up with when he was having a rough time with his homework. And we kind of use, he's 18, he's out on his own learning to be a professional cook. But the whole time he was in school, we posted that everywhere in our house. I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today. And I even use that as my mantra now here on the podcast, to understand that we do it now. We do it today while we're thinking about it. And no matter how small the step is, it's still a step in some sort of direction. So I really appreciate you coming up with that.
Yeah, it is. There's a million cliches, sayings, whatever out there, but like the journey of 1,000 steps starts with a single step. You do have to start somewhere. And I really love that your catchphrase, mantra, whatever you might like to call it, came from your son, because kids are just so like, I'm a professional auntie. My husband and I are a professional auntie and uncle. We do not have children of our own. Like, we're kid adjacent. Like, we have a lot of kids in our lives, our friends, our family, our community. But kids are just so honest. They just come up with these profound things. I think people need to pay more attention to what kids are saying and encourage that kind of thinking and attitude. And I love that it's just permeated into everything that you do.
It really is. From being a cartoon voice Scooby Doo guy to listening to my son say profound things, I like having that openness and not having that filter for my child so he can express himself and not feel like he has to be held back because of an emotion or a feeling that he has. And I think that's what really came about, him being able to say something like that without saying, what's dad going to think? I just want to say it and see what's going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about fear of success, because you brought that up a little bit. You cornered yourself in that one. Sorry, Jess. And tell me a little more about that experience, because I know fear of failure is one thing, but fear of success have come across several people that's had that too. So what is that like
Mm-hmm.
for you?
What it's like for me is I touched on it a little bit, but when Pat, we'd only been working together for a few months. And truly, this is as candid as I have been about working with Pat. I always, like on my show, I talk about, oh, my executive. Like, I don't just, up and down the street, I'm not just like, Pat this, Pat that. But you happen to know Pat. So I do feel like it's a place where I can say that and be okay. I'm a very private person. I am not very good at social media. when I first started working with Pat, so he had asked me about 3 months into working together. We started in March of 2024 and in June of 2014. We started working together March 2014. And in June of 2014, he was like, "Hey, I want to have you on the podcast to talk about this." And I was just like of two minds. I was just like, well, one, he's got a huge listenership. Like working with him, I know what the stats look like. I know how great podcasting used to be prior to the iOS 17 update. So I was just like, yeah, like of two minds. I'm just like, this is such a huge opportunity, but oh my gosh, this is such a huge opportunity. Like, what happens if somebody else reaches out and is just like, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse, and you're going to not want to work with Pat anymore. And yeah, it just felt like too much. And again, not being super great at social media myself, I didn't know what I would do if that opportunity came to me. I already felt like the opportunity of working with Pat, it's very impactful work that we do together. And it's something that I have never had in a role prior to this. I talk a lot on my show about the importance of language, and I felt like I had never worked with an executive before. I had worked for companies, I had worked for executives where they're telling you what to do and they're, micromanagers and up in your space and not listening to you when you have good ideas and you're working for them. You're executing their agenda, their ideas, that kind of thing. I have a very collaborative relationship with Pat. He listens to my ideas. He wants to hear when I have feedback about something. Like it's really great. And that's really rare and really special. And to be faced with losing that didn't feel right to me. I don't want to say it held me back from anything. It was definitely the excuse that I used to not do more. Like I have started my podcast, started and stopped several times over the years. So back when I was working at that last job prior to Pat and was reading Entrepreneur and whatnot, a lot of business podcasts were starting up. And I was like, well, I have a nice voice. I could have a business podcast. That'd be fine. I went to school for theater. I could do this. And then I started working with somebody who had a very successful business podcast. And I was like, oh boy, I don't think I want to do this. This is a lot of work. It's really nice to be a career administrative professional and support someone else's vision and dreams and goals and be very integral to that process and be very appreciated for all of the contributions that I have. And that just, I mean, the right opportunity could come across my desk and somebody does make me that offer I can't refuse, but like I don't know that I could or would give up working with Pat. And that's the fear of success to me is success means more eyes on my projects, more eyes on me, more eyes or ears on my podcast, or more people recognizing me out in public. And like, I don't know. I'm nervous about that. I'm nervous about selfies. I'm shy about, oh, Jess, would you sign this thing for me? Like when I go places with Pat, especially now, he's become a very big presence in the Pokemon sphere. It's a
Mhm.
very more fandom space than it is a business space. And he loves it. He
Oh
just
yeah.
thrives on that kind of stuff. I love being the person who has Sharpies in my pocket. I literally have a bucket of Sharpies right here, just out of frame. I have Sharpies in my pocket. I have cough drops in my pocket. I have Entertainer's Secret everywhere I go that I hit my throat with before we hit record. I like being the person taking the picture. I don't like being the person in the picture.
No, I understand that completely. It's different. When you're in a different world. I mean, it's a whole
Hmm.
different world between what Pat's doing and what you're doing, and being in
Yeah.
a different area. But that's kind of where your zone of genius is,
Hmm.
being behind the scenes and having those little extra since because he wouldn't be able to do the same work that he does now without that. So it's nice to be able to be that person that he needs in the back for that success. It's not just Pat doing this, it's Pat and the crew behind him making the
Hmm.
success happen for him. I mean, he's the major part of it. That's the part that everybody sees. But
Hmm.
the part that people don't see is the work that you do, Jess, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that do too. It's amazing to me the story we tell ourselves sometimes when we come across something that's a little bit scary.
It is. And I am very much the kind of person, that's how I ended up where I am today. I was just like, I would rather try and fail than not try. I would rather put it out there and say, hey, I'm quitting my job, hire me to do stuff. I would rather have tried that than stayed in that miserable job 1 minute longer than I did. Um, and same with this. Like I sometimes do kick myself a little bit for not being more public, for not being more in front of the camera, for not taking that opportunity by the shirt collar and grabbing on and just seeing where the ride went. But I've also been very happy. Like when you are the face of something like that, it's a different and bigger commitment than I think a lot of people realize. Like having that first front row seat, I know how much work goes into maintaining a social media presence, maintaining a newsletter presence, maintaining YouTube, podcast, all of it. You know, I know how much goes into that, and I still do very much. I don't regret any of it. I don't regret staying private and being less vocal and continuing to stay behind the scenes. I don't regret that at all. I've had a very wonderful career working with Pat and just wouldn't trade any of it for the world and still have my, to a great extent, my privacy, my anonymity. When we attend events, you know, he gets mobbed and, oh my God, Pat, sign this and take a selfie with me and what have you. And I still can move through spaces pretty swiftly because I'm not the face of the work.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, like I said before, that's okay because that's where your zone of
Hmm.
genius is.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
you work the best.
Hmm.
All right, awesome. So here's a little spin on a question that you probably hear a lot in podcasts, but I'd like to put a little spin on it.
Sure.
We always talk about what our hardest pitfall was. What was the hardest thing that came when we were getting started? What I like to ask is, what was the hardest pitfall you're most proud of? What is the one thing that happened to you? It seemed really bad at the time, but really had a positive outcome in the end. Anything like that ever happened to you?
I mean, I'm going to bring it right back to the same quitting my last toxic job and just taking a chance on it. Like, truly, that job, I called it the Sunday dreads. Like, you just get to Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning, Friday afternoon, you're so relieved that, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
another week is done. I can go home, I can relax, I can hang out with my friends. We've got whatever planned this weekend. Saturday is great. You wake up energized because you had a nice dinner Friday night. You're going to do whatever you're going to do on Saturday. And then Sunday morning, your shoulders start to tense up a little bit. And you're just like, the weekend's almost over. I have to go back to work tomorrow. Sunday afternoon, you're just like, oh no, the weekend really is almost over. Like we're 12 hours away from being back at work. Sunday night, you're just not sleeping well because you know you have to go back to that terrible job in the morning. And it was ruining my sleep. It was making me very anxious, very sad person. I was very much starting to question my ability. I was planning to go back to school for something else, like go back to college and get a different degree, because I was like, clearly I'm super bad at this and they don't appreciate me and they treat me terribly and it's just time to go. I don't know what I'm going to do, but like it did get to the point where anything was better than staying in that job.
Mhm.
And I was just like, I gotta go. I spent some time before I gave notice looking at other jobs and I made a promise to my then boyfriend, now husband. I was just like, I cannot take a new job unless I love it like 80%. Like that includes the commute, that includes the organization that it's at, that includes the executive I'd be supporting, all of it. If I don't love 80 plus percent of it, I can't take it. Like I just can't swing from terrible job to terrible job just because I need a job. And he was just like, well, I bought this house before I even met you. So, like, go ahead, quit your job. And I did. And it just, even just telling them that I was going to leave in a few months was a huge weight off my shoulders.
Mhm.
And it just, I came to realize, like I said earlier, you know, the relationship changed. Oh, Jess, how you doing? How's your weekend? How's blah, blah, blah. And it just built my confidence back up, like knowing that I had an end date in mind and that they were treating me better and that I was making more connections around Minneapolis
Hmm.
and into the entrepreneurial sphere. Like I joined a co-working space, I was attending events. A lot of co-working spaces are really great at hosting entrepreneurial, whether it's like a lunch and learn, whether it's an evening networking kind of thing, whether it's somebody comes in for a presentation. Yeah, Minneapolis is a really great entrepreneurial hub and just clawing my way back out of that terrible pitfall of nobody likes me, I'm terrible at my job, to I can do this. Like that was, yeah.
That's a fantastic mind shift. Really, I mean, going from what am I doing here to I'm glad I'm here, and being able
Hmm.
to switch your thinking into knowing that you need to kind of believe in yourself and know that you do know what you're doing.
In a huge way. And like my husband's belief in me was a big part of that. Like him just saying, I don't care. It'll be tight for a while. Like we won't go out to eat or anything for a while until you've got clients coming in. But like I afforded the house before I knew you. So I'd like to keep you here. And you are miserable. So if this is the thing that has to change, then let's change it.
Awesome. And that's nice to have that kind of support too from anybody, really, significant other, family member, or anything like that. If you have somebody that's willing to support you that much, that's definitely an asset.
Grab on and don't let go.
Mm, absolutely. So let's just say, for an example, that you come across somebody that you hear that's come across somebody that's thinking about starting a brand new business. What kind of advice would you give? What steps would you think you would have them take?
The steps I would have them take is to really focus. I mean, first of all, the very first step is hopefully they don't live in New York or California. New York and California are two of the best states in the country. Employees, they are two of the most challenging states for employers. Even just to run a small business, which is what the revival of Gal Friday 612 is. It's just me providing freelance services. And even as a solo person running a small business, it is challenging. It's expensive, it's hard. Make sure that you really know what you want to do, whether you live in New York, California, or anywhere else, wherever it is that you might live. Make sure you really know what you want to do. And the way that you do that is by trying a bunch of different things until you figure it out. There are way too many people who monetize their hobbies and then your hobby is no longer your hobby. I have a friend who started selling her crocheted catnip toys. They're the best catnip toys, but then it was a chore. It wasn't a hobby anymore. It was something like, well, I've got a big festival coming up. Every spare minute of the day, I need to be crocheting. So it went from something that was fun and easy to something that was now an obligation. So try things. Kind of what I said earlier too about like you want to be a famous jewelry designer someday, sell that first pair on Etsy. Sell that first pair of earrings, make that first necklace, get your first commission, deliver whatever it is your first project is. A lot of people will tell you to under promise and over deliver. I will never tell you to do that. I think that is the absolute wrong mindset to have. I think you need to realistically promise and then keep in communication with people and then realistically deliver because then you're not selling yourself short by under promising something. You're not selling yourself tall by over delivering. Like, learn what it is that you can offer and what you can do and do it. You will beat out 99% of your competition by doing the thing that you say you'll do when you said you'll do it. That's 99% of success in business is showing up.
Absolutely. Yeah. You come across a lot of people that'll give you all kinds of promises of what they're going to do for you. And then at the end, really nothing
Yeah,
comes about it. And
they don't
so
deliver.
if you can actually deliver what you promise,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, you're ahead of the game for sure.
Yeah, in a huge way. And life
That's
happens
fantastic.
to all of us, especially people with kids. We are two people without kids, and life still happens to us, So just promise and deliver.
Yeah, two amazing words there. There you go. Thank you, Jess. All right. So I have this kind of tradition in my podcast, and I do this with all my guests. In the next 6 months, what do you have planned for yourself and your company and whatever else it is that you're doing? In the next 6 months, what can we expect from you?
What we can expect from me in the next 6 months through my company, Gal Friday 612, is continuing to deliver weekly episodes of the Ask an Assistant podcast. We can expect some live in-person events, hopefully one in San Diego this fall. It is an event for executive assistants, but I am certainly open to working with small business owners because I think that an executive assistant's perspective is very invaluable to people running businesses. So yeah, that's kind of the back half of the year. The front half of the year with my full-time day job was this is the busiest year I've had since 2015. And now we're kind of over those initial humps of the year. So the second half of the year is definitely focusing more on live events and podcast production.
Fantastic. If anybody wants to check out Jess's podcast, once again, Ask an Assistant podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look into the show notes. We'll have a link there so anybody can take a listen to your podcast. Okay.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. So I want to make sure that you understand that now in 6 months, I'd like to have another interview with you.
Okay.
All right. Follow-up interview and see if we've reached those goals and accomplished the aspirations we have for ourselves for those 6 months. Is that okay?
I love it. That'd be great.
Fantastic. All right, Jess, this is your time to shine. This is the time where I want to advertise yourself. How do we get a hold of you and all that good stuff? Okay. Ready, set, go.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jess Lindgren. I am the host of the Ask an Assistant podcast, a show for executive assistants and the people that love us. You can find me at askanassistant.com. You can also find me at jesslindgren.com. Yeah, providing freelance, fractional, personal, and executive assistant work to small business owners for the last 20 years. And just out here trying to make friends and be nice to people.
All right. All right, Jess. Thank you so much for being on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur Get Across the Start Line. This has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I love meeting you. And thank you very much for all that you do behind the scenes for Pat.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so glad to chat with a fan.
All right. All right, School Believers, make sure you stay tuned for the wrap-up. Okay, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, School Believers, that was Jess. What a fantastic conversation we had with her. I had a blast talking to her. It's so good to see some of the behind the scenes. I know Pat's awesome, and he's right up front there. You can't miss him. But it's always good, like I said, actually in the podcast, to look behind the scenes a little bit and see who works with Pat to make him who he is. And that's why I like talking to Jess so much. Here are a couple takeaways I had from that. Your Sunday dreads are your actual wake-up call. That crushing anxiety that you feel every weekend about returning to work isn't a life sentence. It's your inner compass pointing you towards the changes that you need to make. The moment you realize that you're more afraid of staying than leaving is when your real life begins. Just like Jess discovered when she finally escaped her toxic job to build her own successful business. Start small, but start today. You don't need to have a perfect business plan or venture capital to change your life. You just need to take the one authentic step forward. Jess's simple BBC email to everyone she knew led to a 12-year career and more with the amazing Pat Flynn, proving that success often comes from showing up consistently and doing what you say you'll do, not from grand gestures or overnight transformations. And I think we could all take that to the bank. And with that, I'm going to say thank you very much, School Believers, for another fantastic episode, and I will see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. And there you have it, future entrepreneurs. We've taken another step towards our journey to get across that start line. Remember, every great business starts with a single idea and the courage to pursue it. You've already shown that courage by joining us here today. As we wrap up this episode of The Undiscovered Entrepreneur, I want to remind you that the start line isn't as far away as you might think. With each bit of knowledge you gain, each fear you face, you're getting closer to launching your dream. Until our next episode together, keep pushing, keep dreaming, and most importantly, keep taking those steps across the start line. They'll all add up to big strides in your entrepreneur adventure. This is Scoob, your guide across the start line. Remember, your future is waiting. I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today. Do you find yourself faltering when speaking in public? You definitely know what you're talking about, but you just can't seem to get over the horrific fear, and imagining people in their underwear is just not working. Whether you're gearing up for a big presentation or just looking to improve your daily communications, Leslie Fiorenzo is your go-to resource for mastering self-promotion, facing your audience fearlessly, and communicating with authority. Don't miss out on your opportunity to elevate your game. Contact Leslie Fiorenzo now, or go to tuepodcast.net/speak to step into the spotlight with confidence. Your adventure in public speaking mastery starts here and now. Don't wait to get your voice heard. Book your free consultation at tuepodcast.net/speak to start your adventure in speaking excellence today.